it is my superpower, and it has given me that grit, that determination, that sort of, I'm blooming well going to do this, and I'm going to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to do the best I can, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be messy at times, and that's okay, because done is better than perfect. Welcome to this week's Ask Charlie. Now, I wasn't planning on sitting down and having this conversation with you, but it seems relevant, and the conversation we're going to have is about dyslexia. I was planning on sharing with you what's new in my wardrobe for spring, summer, although I think it's probably more summer now, although the weather is certainly not very summer-like. So if you would like to see what's new in my wardrobe, write wardrobe in the comments down below, and I will share that with you next week. But this week we are going to have a chat about dyslexia and all things that entails, because something happened last night, and it seems relevant for me to sit down and have this conversation. Now, I am seriously dyslexic, like seriously. And there is actually a link to neurodiversity and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I didn't know about until quite recently. Lucinda has been on my podcast, and I will leave that episode linked down below, although we didn't talk that much about this in particular, but Lucinda does talk a lot about EDS and neurodiversity. And I am severely dyslexic. I was diagnosed when I was 15 with dyslexia and being seriously dyslexic, not just a little bit, massively so. And it has caused loads and loads of problems throughout my life. And something happened last night, and the person didn't mean anything unkind at all. And she just sent me a private DM and just said that I had made a mistake. And I wrote the wrong there on a story, and I should have used, I can't even spell it, the one with an I rather than the other one. And my brain just doesn't work like that. And I thought we would just have this conversation, because I really hope me having these conversations helps other people. And I know that I certainly felt so stupid growing up. I mean, really stupid. I have a brother who was a top scholar, amazing at languages, and just really flourished at school. And everybody looked at me as if to say, what on earth has happened to you? And oh boy, you are stupid. And they told me so regularly. And it wasn't until I was 15 when I was sent for an assessment and formally diagnosed. And by that stage, I'd got to 15. I just muddled along. And it wasn't until I went to university that I was offered quite a lot of help because of my dyslexia. And I was like, why are you offering me so much help? Like, I've got this far on my own. I actually quit uni, so that's another story. But, you know, I did really, really struggle, and it did have a huge impact on my life. But I suppose because I was born with it, I was born with EDS, and I was born with dyslexia, I don't know any different. So I've just had to kind of muddle along as best I possibly can. But there are ways that I have learned over the years of sort of putting things in practice. And actually, I want to have this conversation because it might be helpful for you with family members, or, you know, friends of friends or whatever, to kind of share that I've talked about this. So I think the first time I was made to feel huge shame was at school, and I got caught for cheating in a spelling test. Now, I was a goody two-shoes, like I never did anything wrong, but every week we had these spelling tests, and the teacher would call the word out at the front of the classroom, would have to write it down, and I would just get such bad marks. And I would write these words out 100 times, and they just did not stay in here. And so one week I decided to have them written on my lap, and I would cheat, and I got caught, and I got punished, really punished for it. And I think back to that quite a lot, because these words just don't stay in my brain. My business is Ask Charlie How, HOW. And when I often will write who or how the wrong way round. And that's the name of my business. And it's been like that for 6 years, and I still have to check. that's how bad it is. And I can look at a word that if I'm writing, say, for example, a message to somebody and I have to write a word. So this morning I've had to write the word immersion about 30 times because we have a problem with an immersion heater in a property. And if you ask me now, I've written it 30 times today. I couldn't write it out for you. I've asked Alexa numerous times. I got it so incorrect on my auto spell, didn't even come up with the word. That's how off track I was, because my brain just doesn't process these things. And this person, from a place of, I'm sure, absolute kindness, just told me I'd made a mistake. And I just wrote back and said, I'm seriously dyslexic. She apologized and was like, I feel really bad now. And I don't mind at all. I do not mind in the slightest, because I've been told all my life that I have got, the wrong spelling, the wrong grammatical, whatever. I mean, it literally just goes straight over. My brain does not retain that information. And no matter how much I try, how much I learn, it just doesn't go in. My brain remembers a recipe. It can't type the recipe, but it can remember the recipe. My brain works in so many different ways. And I wanted to sit down and talk to you about this and talk to you about how we can celebrate how we can flip things around from a negative to a positive, and how we can change our mindset. Because I don't mind her telling me I've got a mistake at all. But I did wake up thinking about it because this happened last night, and she apologized. It's absolutely fine. And I thought, oh, I should delete that because I made a mistake. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to delete that. I'm going to own that mistake. And I'm just going to do a post on my Instagram grid and just say, hey, I'm severely dyslexic, and there are going to be mistakes, and there are going to be errors, and I am going to get it wrong. But I don't care, because I see the dyslexia as my superpower. I see it as my brain thinks differently. Give me a problem and I will solve it, thinking completely outside the box. And I love that my brain does that. I love that I'm different. I haven't always loved it at all. School was a nightmare. I was privately educated. I had a phenomenal education. It wasn't until I changed school for long story, but I did almost 2 years at my last senior school. And that was a school that encouraged you to do and focus on the things that you were good at. So I flourished there because it didn't matter what I did in the classroom. Nobody cared if I got things wrong. They encouraged me to do the things that I was good at, that I was passionate about. And that was fashion, that was design, that was theology, and that was, those sorts of things. And I was allowed to put on charity fashion shows. I mean, that was just incredible. That helped my confidence so much. But I had come from a place of rock bottom in my academic self-esteem. I mean, I had been written off so many times. And I think also having a brother that was seriously academic was hard too, really hard. But the older I've got, the more I've realised that it is a superpower. And there will always be people that tell me I've made a mistake. And that's okay. I really don't mind. And I just will turn around and say, well, I'm dyslexic and I can't help it. And it's not an excuse. I do double check things. I triple check things. And I feel really lucky that I work in the way that I do with Ask Charlie. So it's all video form, and I have the most amazing VA who has been with me since day one. Since I first came up with the idea, Tish has been on board, and she's been my right-hand girl. She's not with me 24/7. I wish she was. And then there wouldn't be so many mistakes. But, she occasionally she'll help me with a caption. But most of the captions I write myself. But when I have blog posts and vlogs and my newsletter, Tish has helped with the words. So she transcribes my videos and puts them into beautiful words that are easy for you to read. Because if you were to read what I had written, you wouldn't be coming back for seconds. But I love talking and I love working in this way. So together we are a partnership. It has meant that it's taken, it's not easy because I have to have her. I have tried to cut back her hours. I've tried to take on more myself. It didn't work. And, employing a member of staff when you have a fledgling business isn't easy financially. To be honest, it has been really, really tricky to kind of keep it going, which is one of the huge reasons why I started my members club, because I need Tish to be able to continue doing what I do, because I can't do it on my own. And I've had to think of ways of working that don't hold me back, that can let me flourish, let me be creative without me having the struggles of having to sit down. I mean, when I have to write a thank you letter, it can flow. Like, I've written speeches, I've stood up and given speeches that I have written, and sometimes the words just come to me. And when they come to me, it might be in the middle of the night, I have to write it down. But often the words, 99% of the time, the words just don't come out, and I find it really, really, really tricky. And grammatically, my writing is appalling. And I've realised that you can't learn those things. Like, yes, I can spell business now, but I still have to do bus-e-ness every time I write that word, and that is just the way my brain is, and that's okay. And with my children, 2 of them are pretty dyslexic and one of them isn't. And the one that isn't will frequently help me with my spelling. And I noticed when the children are very, very close in age, and I noticed that that one of them was struggling, and I said to his school, I think he should be assessed for dyslexia. No, you've got to wait till he's much older. We can't do that now. And I actually got advice from a paediatrician who said, absolutely trust your gut. And if there's history of it in the family, then you need to just take him to an educational psychologist and get a report. And I knew really early on with that child that they needed extra support. And it made me put tools in place to support them in the best possible way. So, for example, we never did reading aloud as a group, because that, for somebody that's dyslexic, that struggles with their reading, is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. It's in a classroom when you all have to read a paragraph aloud, and you are that one that struggles with your reading. You break out into a sweat, your palms get sweaty, the words are jumping all over the place. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot in front of my classmates. Oh goodness, what if they laugh? That is then the worst thing. And so it's learning about these things, and because I've been there, I've been able to support my children in the best possible way that I can. So we've never read aloud. I've always focused on the positives. I've always honed in on, it being a superpower. One of our children that is dyslexic has got an all-round scholarship, which has been a huge confidence boost to that child, because they have really, really, really struggled. And, handwriting like that of a 5-year-old. And that just isn't easy when you're at school and you're being compared to one another. And so I think I just wanted to sit down and have this conversation and talk about it, and talk about, my story, and how, when you're diagnosed with something quite late on, how you can, you think, well, okay, I've got this far, but what systems can I put in place? So, for example, I find Alexa really, really helpful. I know that I need to spend the time to find some software, and if you guys, and I'm sure you do, know of some software that can type letters for me, that is really good on kind of voice and typing, that I don't have to say full stop, comma, return, all of the rest of it, that kind of helps me. I know there are lots of resources out there that I know I would find really helpful. I haven't found them yet, and I have tried various different software and packages and what have you over the years. But it's about turning things around, I think, in your head, and turning what can be seen as a negative as a positive, and embracing it, and not taking things personally, and being able to say, oh, hang on, I think there's someone at the door. That was a delivery. Sorry about that. And I can't remember exactly where I am, because that's where my brain works, jumps all over the place. But it's about reframing things and not taking things personally, not taking them to heart, and just being able to like brush it off and be like, oh, it doesn't matter. In the old days, it would have knocked my confidence back and be like, oh gosh, you know, and made me scared of posting online. And now I don't care. I really don't. Like, I am what I am, and if you like me, you like me, and if you don't, you don't. And it's never going to be perfect with me. There's going to be typos, there's going to be mistakes, but I would rather get the content out, because you guys get the gist, you understand where I'm coming from. And if you don't understand, then maybe me sitting down and talking about this will help, and maybe it will help you and in your reaction to other people that are making mistakes and getting things wrong. And yes, it is important, and there is a time and a place absolutely for those things to be picked up, for mistakes to be, you know, brought to you. You know, if mine is in a printed recipe, then I would really love to know about it, because I can change that mistake, you know, for the future. And so there is an absolute place, and I will never be upset about somebody saying you've got it wrong at all. So don't ever think, oh gosh, I can't tell Charlie there's a mistake. Please, please, please do. But I just want you to understand that it isn't going to be perfect, and I would rather do my best. And as I've said, I don't have Tish 24/7, so a lot of what comes out content-wise is from me. Somebody picked me up a year or so ago on a mistake, and they said, oh, I thought your PR peeps would have been on that. There aren't any PR peeps. It's me. And it's Tish, and I pay Tish by the hour, and she beavers away for me, each week, and she's been by my side, holding my hand for a long time. And then I have wonderful Victoria, who edits my podcasts, and she did edit my YouTube videos, but I actually find it easier to edit them myself. And I've talked about that before. By the time I've sent the content to somebody, they've edited it, they've sent it back, I have to sit down and concentrate and watch it. It's actually easier for me just to crack on and edit myself. And I like choosing the music, and I like doing it, and I like being, part of that and really as hands-on as I possibly can be. But I just thought that I would sit down and talk about this, because I think we all have our strengths in life. We all have our things that we are good at. We all have our things that we are not so good at. And that's okay. And I think that's what is so wonderful and actually makes this such a rich world. If we were all the same, it would be so blooming boring. It's that sort of rich tapestry of life that we can all have our different strengths and pull together, work together to create, the best that we can. And, I know that I'm useless at languages. My maths is pretty ropey, but I can use a calculator, so that's okay. I can ask Alexa for a lot of things, which is also very, very handy. I can muddle along and I can get by, but I have lots of other strengths, and I find it really important to focus on those. And I have one of my children who will always help me with my spellings, that whenever I possibly can get them to reply to messages when we're in the car, they'll be my secretary. I have my husband, who is always telling me how to spell things or checking things for me. And we make it a joke, and I laugh about it. And that, I think, is really, really important, because there have been a lot of tears in the past when well, not tears, but just, that self-esteem being so low when you feel really, really useless. And school, for people that struggle, is a really, really tough time. And we have spent a lot of time on our children's education trying to find, the best fit for them. you don't always get it right, and it's not always easy, and schools change, and it depends on, you know, your peers, the members of staff, all sorts of different factors. But we have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy on trying to get the right fit, because if you are in the right environment, you can flourish and you can do so well, and you can be the best version of yourself without being made to feel not very good. And if you're, I mean, I was in a very, very academic school from the age of 12 to 16, almost 17. And they were focusing on straight A's and league tables. And I was just going down and down and down and down and down. And it was a disaster, an absolute disaster. And then I ended up doing a secretarial. I was literally the world's worst secretary. I was appalling. I mean, shorthand, trying to do shorthand as a severely dyslexic person was literally like talking mumbo jumbo. I mean, oh my goodness, it was awful. And computers and I don't really love each other. I mean, I'm fine if nothing changes, and if I learn, and it is, for me, it's repetition. Sometimes with repetition works really well. Sometimes, like with some words, like, you know, there are just some words that I just don't ever get. I'm never going to be able to spell them, and that's okay. Yeah. It's just muddling along. So I thought I would just sit down and chat to you this week about being dyslexic. And I don't think I've really talked about it that much. I think it's because it's something that I've always had. I do drop it into conversation from time to time. You know, I kind of forget about it. And I think you just learn to live with things and you learn to manage them. But it is my superpower, and it has given me that grit, that determination, that sort of, I'm blooming well going to do this, and I'm going to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to do the best I can, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be messy at times, and that's okay, because done is better than perfect. And I hope that this resonates with some of you, or I hope that it's helpful, you know, maybe down the line, maybe not relevant today. Maybe if you've got a child that's struggling a bit at school, let them watch this, because, you know, I really was terrible. And now I have my own business, and I love it. And I love the community that I have formed. And I know, and I've had from my Instagram post that I shared, the love, the support, and the kindness is just phenomenal. And so I want to thank you all very, very much for allowing me to have this conversation, for your support, for your encouragement, and for your kindness. And, you know, I just feel that I wish that girl that was struggling so much all those years ago could see where I am now and know that it was okay, and it's you can get there. You can get there. And I hope that if you're that girl listening to this, this gives you the incentive and the encouragement to just be you and do what you can, because that's all we can do in life. And remember that we have to have all these different types of people to form the rich tapestry of life. Anyway, I will see you on Friday with my Friday vlog. And in the meantime, lots of love, and thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're new around here, please hit the subscribe button, because the more, the merrier.